So the theme actually for World Habitat Day is housing for all, a better urban future. And of course we have our host, I said our host, we have our guest on the
She
show.
looks like our host. Quite
She looks
classy
all
and trendy.
classy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Just do the introductions a bit before we do the introduction for you.
Okay, my name is Madukwe. I'm the CEO of Babexx Homes.
Okay.
We are all about providing affordable luxury homes right here on Lagos
Nice,
Island.
nice. But let me take away from that and let's talk about the fact that it's a problem, and looking how COVID has literally changed the way we view housing. People literally didn't even like staying at home before, but now, because of COVID, everyone has to stay in the house.
Yeah.
But we also realize that people are homeless. The stats, like he said, 1.8 million Nigerians cannot afford good shelter and good space. And if you not bring the stats to Lagos, there's a big problem.
Yeah.
Let's look at how that number can be reduced.
Well, majorly, let's start, before we look at how the numbers can be reduced, let's start with the problems surrounding this factor. First of all, there are so many problems, which number one is the government policy. Right now, it is so hard for you to actually get a land in Lagos, like a genuine land. When you talk about documentations, you buy this land, you want to process your documents and everything, it takes months. It takes a very, very long period. And the government is not going easy on the private sector like us. For us that want to buy, want to build and provide this house, and we have to pay a lot. All of these things affect the costs of the house, what we're going to end up selling it as. So all of these things, it takes a lot of time to process your documents. It takes a lot, you have to spend a lot to get all of this, which is not supposed to be happening. Do you understand? Now, for instance, we have Ibejuleki today, which we all know is going to be really, really big. It's like a future investment. Normally, a country like Nigeria is supposed to go there, acquire a massive amount of land that they can start developing so that people can use NHF, which is the National Housing Fund, to process and then get. But these things are not working in Nigeria. Instead, private sectors are the ones going in there to purchase this land. And when they purchase it, okay, now they purchase it, they try to get their documents, it becomes really, really expensive. So you don't expect them to sell it at the price that they actually bought it for. They have to try to get interest because that is why they are the private sector. So it's really, really hard. All these things surrounding actually affect how housing is right now in Nigeria. So now the National Housing Fund normally, our minimum wage now is 30,000. You cannot expect somebody with 30,000 to get a home. It's way too low. If you were receiving 125,000, you'll be paying 20% every year every month. But it doesn't work like that. You can't expect somebody 30,000, like the transportation, everything, feeding and everything.
Abroad, I know that it works, a system that works, and of course people get to pay mortgage over a period of maybe 10, 15 years, and then you pay off. But now in Nigeria, because you said minimum wage is 30,000, is there a possibility the government can, I don't know, reduce even the cost of these houses? Let's say get a land in a big place, reduce the cost of housing for those who can, not talking of the middle class now, people who cannot even afford, because we have people sleeping on the streets. And this has been on for the past 10 years, especially in a place populated as Lagos. So there's a booming problem at hand right now.
Okay, that is where the National Housing Fund is supposed to come in again, because they are supposed to be the ones to acquire the land, and people can spread payment for up to 20 years. But it's not happening right now. These days, it takes a lot of time. It takes up to a year for you to actually assess this loan to get the house. Do you understand? Now, before a year, developers would not want to wait that long. Okay, now it's for the government to actually come up, do this, build this, let people invest, because it's a National Housing Fund for a reason, to provide homes for people. Do you understand? But all of the sectors are not really working, and this is the sector we need. We need it to work right now so that it can actually, create a better future for Nigerians. So
listen, I mean, all you said is apt, because the truth is, this is something that the government has got to invest in housing in Nigeria. But let's bring it down to Lagos now. I mentioned earlier on there's a huge housing deficit in Lagos. I'm not sure what the Lagos state government is doing, but in your own experience, and of course your own advice as maybe a consultant, what would you advise individual states, and of course Lagos in particular, because you see how the population is exploding over time in Lagos, and we're still going to have that mass movement from across states to Lagos, because this is a town where obviously a lot of economic progress is happening here.
Okay.
So what would you advise, individual states to do in order to reduce the housing deficit and, of course, free homes for affordable homes for most people?
Okay, I'll first of all tell the government to free up the sector. Make it easy for us to actually purchase this land, do the registration, cut down the cost. Because when they're able to cut down the cost, it becomes easier for us to provide affordable housing for Lagosians. Do you understand? Because, for instance, I buy a land for 3 million naira. Before I'm done with all the processing of the documents, it amounts to like 5 million. And then you can't expect me to sell it for 5 million. I would want to get... So when the government try to free up the sector and all of this, and also try to release the number of times, like try to make getting the land very affordable and less stressful, because the process is actually very stressful. It takes years.
And it should be seamless. It should be an
It should be
exercise.
seamless, because what we have now is cases of people, moneyless and co, they want to lay prominence to a land. Of course, then you have the private. Sometimes I feel like it's a disadvantage on, or would I say it's the private sector of the real estate, because at the end of the day, they buy these lands up, keep it for themselves, and the government obviously has to lay claim again to those. So you have conflict between the private and the government.
Well, it doesn't really happen like that, because before, that's what you call an excision. When a government own a particular land, they exercise some to the family members. Now, what is the government using their own portion of land for? Nothing. It's just there, laying waste. Meanwhile, they can come in and start building homes using the national funds. People would be able to afford it. Even the minimum wage, people would be able, and it will reduce the number of people we have that currently homeless in Lagos. So these are the sector that government have to actually look at. Now, as a private sector, we try to create affordable housing. That means through payment plans. We give a number of years where people can actually spread payments, but it's really, really hard, especially with the minimum wage that we have currently in Lagos. So I would say the government should try to free up the sector, because once they do that, it will become easier on private sector too. And then everything will go smoothly in the country.
Let's talk about real estate in general now. How well would you say we have made progress? And of course, like we rightly said, it is the private sectors that have taken center stage in acquiring these lands and, of course, building massive estates. You've mentioned the Bejuleki area. There's another one on the mainland close to the, what they call that, Mowe area. And there are lots of, real estate boom in all of this, areas. But let's look at how real estate is being played out in the country. Would you say there are a lot of major players coming in? I know I can count, top of my head, 5 real estate, players. Is it seamless? Is it easy for individuals to come in and be key in the real estate sector, be a major player or be a stakeholder in it?
Yeah, actually, the private sector have made it a lot easier. Normally, before you acquire a land, you have to go through Omonile and all of that. But once you're buying from a private sector now, it becomes easier, because you don't need to go through all those stress. What you just need to do is to walk into their company, tell them, okay, I want to see this land. They take you for inspection. You as a person, you definitely need to verify. So you take a surveyor down on site. They tell you, okay, this land is free from all government acquisition before you actually acquire the land. So it has been very easy. And the real estate in Nigeria has really improved. They've tried to make it security conscious. They've tried to make it really, really good, except you're the kind of person that you're trying to get the lowest offer. There's something that, I wolf the porch belly. There are some people that, instead of doing the right thing, they try to beat around the bush, and then they end up losing it totally. Do you understand? So all of these things are what causes all these things, that you see somebody has been kidnapped, he tried to go purchase the land. It doesn't work like that. You cannot walk into an office and be kidnapped. Do you understand? So what I would say is, before you actually try to get one of these properties, source out, check the company, do your due diligence, and then everything will work out well for you.
Okay, let me ask you this question, because as a woman, most especially, it comes with a lot of dangers. Imagine you, or I know you've been in that scenario where you have to go and take someone for inspection.
Definitely.
And then there's dangers of kidnapping. Is it a really safe profession for women especially?
Yes. If it's not a safe profession, I will not be doing it by now. Do you understand? So I'm a living evidence. It's just you have to set your priorities right. Because as a lady, many people will chat to you instead of, you know, trying to purchase the property you acquire. They'll start chatting you for something else. So you need to set your rules. You need to set your goals. So it's actually very easy. For instance, somebody will walk into my office. They would not want to start telling me I want to toast you. I know they know I'm there for business.
But some people are not there.
Yeah, but some people are not.
They need to be able to agree. So
I've actually had cases when somebody will say, I'll pay you so amounts just to raise up your... And I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah, there's actually sexual harassment, but it depends. You can actually manage it.
What of security in those areas, especially when the Omonile want to act funny or they want to play funny? How do you do with all this kidnap? Have you ever experienced anything like that before?
Well, that is why I said the private sector comes in. Because when you're buying from a private sector, you don't have to go through Omonile issues. Because they are the one going through the Omonile issues for you. Do you understand? So that is why I said they have made it a safe environment for people to actually purchase a property. And that is why it is actually better, because now these days nobody waits for the government to do the roads and everything. But in an instance where you go to buy a land in an estate, you know the estate is the one in charge of the roads, in charge of everything, just to make your life really comfortable. So that is why I said you don't have to do all of that, except you're looking for a wolf. What did I say? I wolf they punch belly. Seriously, that's my Nigerian
right.
English. I'm proud.
But let me ask this.
Okay.
Do you think that the real estate sector in Nigeria, particularly in Lagos, do you think it's a bit overpriced? Because you go to some places, even in Lekki, it's not a developed area.
Okay.
There's no, you know, resources for people to say, okay, I'm going to Lekki. I'm talking about maybe towards your Shongo Tedo, Lakwe, all those areas. Okay. And then you don't see any resources right there, no water, no lights. You have to, you know, and you ask them for the price and they're telling you it's 50 million and above. Do you think it's overpriced? Do you think some of this real estate investors are just a bit too eager to put all this fixed price, expensive fixed price?
Well, that is why I said you can't really blame them. When it is not working, it is not working. Sometimes they have to go all the way out just to get that document. You know, nobody wants to buy a land without a document. And do you actually know how stressful it is? So when they have to pay a certain amount, you won't expect them to start selling at a cheaper rate. And again, the lands there are actually very expensive. So when somebody buys a land and tries to build, they're expecting to make returns. Do you understand? So what if you're not? What if you're buying for personal gains, for personal use? What if you're buying to just build something really small? I mean, you wouldn't say that 60% of people coming to buy land are using it for commercial purposes. I get you, but that is why I'm saying that you have to free up the sector. The titling, you have to register your land. Even if you buy, you're going to go through a lot of stress trying to register. So all of these things, they would definitely sum it up and like, okay, if I sell it at this, I'm hoping to at least get 10 million naira again, 5 million naira again and all. You might be seeing it as expensive, but that is what they have spent and the effort. So you have to look at it on two ways. Do you understand? So I would suggest that people should check their budgets. Your budget actually tells you, okay, this is where I can actually afford right now. This is where I can stay. This is where, so that is just it. You just have to check your budget. And also the government needs to free up the sector, because once they do that, trust me, it will be very, very affordable and conducive. That's just what I'm saying. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It reminds me of Selling Sunsets. I don't know if you watch it. It's a series of talks about the women who are selling real estate and they are selling it in Hollywood. Maybe it's a conversation you know would have another day. But I disagree a bit. I feel like most of these real estate agents, and not just agents, real estate investors, are just milking a lot of us, because you go to the Lekki and there's really nothing, and then you put a house where a friend of mine that I know returned from Canada, and when he showed me the property he bought for 18 million, I just lost it. I'm like,
you bought this property for 80 million.
Okay.
And then you're wondering, what is in the environment that I'm going to pay 80 million now? I'd rather take that 80 million. I mean, it's a conversation we'll have off.
Definitely.
I'm just putting my thoughts out.
Thank you so much, Blessing, for coming on the show. It was nice really getting your perspective on real estate in Nigeria. Yeah, so we have got to go, but not yet, don't go anywhere. We still have a little bit more for you. Remember that you can follow the conversation on social media, and everything you need will be right there. So we'll take this break and we'll be right back.